IVM.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories, India's very own travel podcast, where each week we share the journey of travelers in their own words and relive their experiences with you, our listeners.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another new episode of the Musafir Stories. Today, Sagar Senapati, a travel enthusiast who runs the blog Travel Safar or Hum, takes us to a historical town in Maharashtra. Hop on to the episode and find out more.
So, with that introduction, we'd love to welcome Sagar Senapati from the blog Travel Safar or Hum. Hi, Sagar. Welcome to the Musafir Stories.
Hi, Sagar.
Hi guys.
It's a pleasure, and I know we've been chatting for a while, so glad to have you on the podcast finally. Now, Sagar, as we usually do with the Musafir Stories, why don't you tell us and our listeners where you're taking us to today?
Yeah, so guys, this time I am going to take you to Aurangabad, a city, a district which is famously known for is UNESCO World Heritage Sites, which is located in Maharashtra state and which has history deep rooted from Buddhism to Mughal era.
Okay, nice. So, Sagar, in terms of orientation, if one has to start off their journey from Mumbai, where does Aurangabad fall?
So Aurangabad basically falls at northeast part of Mumbai basically.
Okay, okay, great.
Yeah, it's in the northeast. It's a bit northeast to Mumbai, and roughly about 300 kilometers, I believe, from Mumbai or so, right?
Yeah.
Sagar.
So this would actually make a good road trip, weekend trip as well.
Weekend gateway, right.
Absolutely, and one of the very underrated destinations also. It's not spoken about much, but as we'll see during the course of the conversation, Aurangabad has a lot to offer, both in terms of history, architecture, as well as culture. Now, Sagar, just before getting into the details of the itinerary and your trip itself, would you also please call out in terms of the historical significance of the place?
Yeah, sure. So Aurangabad, like its official name was coined by the sixth Mughal emperor, that is Aurangzeb. So at that time he was the viceroy of the Deccan, and Aurangabad was the capital.
Right.
So actually Aurangabad city earlier used to have around 52 gates. So it was also coined as the city of gates, but during a current scenario, I think almost most of the gates are in ruined condition, and most of them doesn't exist as of now. So that's why we are not able to see a lot number of gates as of now.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, the current name is obviously because of the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, one of the last Mughal emperors, Aurangzeb. But just going back in time and tracking or tracing the history of the place, of the region as well, it has been actually the center of a lot of big empires, starting from the Satavahanas back in the 1st century BC to the empires like Yadavas who followed after, and even the Delhi Sultanate. They had this place. They ruled over this place, Aurangabad. Of course, back in the day, like I said, during the Satavahanas, I think it was called as Paitan. I don't know how you exactly pronounce that.
It was called as Paitan.
Paitan, right? Yeah, that, and then Devagiri during the Yadavas, and the Delhi Sultanate. I don't know if some of us still remember this from our history books, but one of the rulers of the Sultanate, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he actually transferred the capital from Delhi to this place. Yeah, it was known as Daulatabad back then. And it didn't quite pan out as he wanted to. So they actually got the capital shifted back to Delhi after 3 or 4 years. But yeah, like you have seen, it's been quite a significant place throughout time, right? Throughout these different empires, throughout these different dynasties, and finally it ended up with after the Mughals. Obviously, it ended up with the Ahmednagar Sultanate, followed by it being a part of the Asaf Jahi dynasty as part of the state of Hyderabad. Back in the day, it was called as the state of Hyderabad, and it remained as such until independence. And finally, it was made a part of Maharashtra. Either way, I just wanted to call out that historically it's been a very, very significant place, and we'll find out a little bit more about the different points of interest and how the city lies in its current condition. But tell us a little bit more about your trip. How long of an itinerary was this?
Yeah, so basically I made a 2-day itinerary, like for Saturday and Sunday. So I started on Friday night. Mode of transportation can be by road, train or airways.
Okay.
Actually, the most convenient way is via railways, but to get tickets to Aurangabad is a bit difficult if you're planning like on an end day. So I thought to take a bus, a Volvo bus from Mumbai to Aurangabad, so which is an overnight journey.
Okay, wonderful. So it's a 2-day itinerary, and in terms of getting around within Aurangabad and even options for stay, is this something that has a decent enough infrastructure that you can go there and book places, or do you have to book ahead of time?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually I went for solo trip, so I stayed in a hostel. So, but if you are with your family or someone, but I think you have a couple of stay option in and around the city. So I think stay would not be a problem, even if you're alone or you're coming with your family.
All right, great. So, and what time of the year it's best to travel to Aurangabad, Sagar?
So the best time to visit Aurangabad is during winter season,
Okay.
because winters are the time where the temperature is as low as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, so we are all set and a 2-day itinerary. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what you did on the first day?
Yeah, okay. So I reached Aurangabad around morning 5 or 6 o'clock. So I checked into my hostel, and then on the same day I planned to visit the Ajanta caves. So Ajanta caves is at a drive of around 4 hours from Aurangabad. So going to Ajanta caves, like you can either take a private cab, or you can go by local transportation like a Volvo bus or a local ST bus. My preferred mode of transportation by Volvo, because there is a government MSTC Volvo bus which starts around 8:30 am in the morning, and it will take you to Ajanta caves. You can visit for around 3 to 4 hours or spend a time of 3 to 4 hours in Ajanta caves, and then the bus will bring you back at around 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the evening.
Okay, great. So let's also call out a little bit in terms of the background of these Ajanta caves and how your experience was visiting there, because this is one of the key attractions of the place also, right? I know it's a little bit away from the city center, I guess, but still one of the key points to visit during your trip to Aurangabad, yeah?
Yeah, right. So Ajanta caves, actually it's famous because it is titled as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And one quick fact, like I want to mention that Ajanta and Ellora caves are the first UNESCO heritage site of India.
Okay.
So they were coined UNESCO heritage during the year 1983.
No, wow.
So,
all right.
And also the main attraction of the Ajanta caves are the fresco dry paintings, like the largest collection of ancient Buddhist paintings from like in all over the India we find in Ajanta caves. So Ajanta caves is basically is a stay for Buddhist monks. So whenever these Buddhist people or the monks travel from one place to another, during monsoon they can't travel because they travel barefoot. So they have to stay in a place so that they won't kill any animals or insects or any small animals while traveling. So that's why they used to stay in these cave forts, or I mean to say the caves during monsoons from around 3 to 4 months.
Yep, absolutely. And just stunning, right? Just the way these caves are built out, and given the time also when these caves were carved out or constructed, these date back to right from the 2nd century BCE, like we mentioned, during the time of the Satavahanas. And I believe a second phase of construction, if you may say, was also carried out between 400 to 600 CE or so under the Vakataka dynasty. So it's really kind of mind-blowing to kind of first of all imagine the level of detail and the craftsmanship that has gone into the construction of these caves. These are about 30 rock-cut caves, and one has to see it to kind of admire how good they are. But the key points being, like Sagar called out, the monasteries, which is basically the Buddhist monasteries, and both places of worship as well as places of stay for these Buddhist monks. And also they have number of these beautiful paintings within these caves. So how much time you spent the whole day? I'm assuming since you took the bus there, the whole day you spent exploring some of these caves. And do you want to call out some of the points you checked out?
Yeah, sure. So actually, we spent around pretty good enough, around 3 to 4 hours. So I reached around 12 o'clock, 11 or 12 o'clock at afternoon. So I had my lunch and then I started exploring the place. So one thing is important which I want to mention is that there is a guide. So there is a guide which takes around 1800 rupees for a group of 5 people or 4 people or less than 5 people. So we thought of taking a guide because going into this cave without having any knowledge about the fresco paintings or the architecture is like of no use.
Yep.
So as the cost of guide was too high, so we thought of let's go and explore the place. And there someone guided me and told me that each and every cave has a guard or a security guard, so which take care of the cave, so that no one is clicking any video or something. So there is a quick way if you want to save money. So go to the guard, give him $50, and he will explain you the entire architecture of that particular cave. So
Oh, that's nice.
so yeah, so I have noted a couple of caves which I want that you shouldn't miss when you are in Ajanta caves. That is cave number 1, 2, 10, 16, 17 and 26. These are the 5 to 6 caves which are of very much importance.
Okay.
Okay.
And why do you say that?
Because in some of these caves we have the fresco paintings. Like the fresco paintings are not in all the caves.
Okay.
It's only in 4 to 5 caves, and in 1 or 2 caves we have the Chaitya hall. Chaitya hall means the prayer hall of the Buddhist monks.
Yep.
So the architecture which has influenced the Christians to make their churches and everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And it's quite a sight, right? These Chaitya halls. You almost feel like you're in a church, but obviously the architecture and everything is very Buddhist in nature, with all of these sculptures of Gautam Buddha, obviously, and then also these bodhisattvas, along with these fresco paintings on the walls. So it's really a sight to kind of behold. And a lot of these paintings, I believe, are also a depiction of the Jataka tales, basically, right? If we might have, some of us might remember them from our school curriculum or whatever. But these are the tales, basically, that are also depicted on the walls through these paintings, is what I believe. But yeah, just both the architectural marvel as well as even historically speaking, right? How it's been built out and given the time it was built out in, etc. Just a sight to behold, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely true.
Yeah, definitely. So you spent some time here, and like you said, there is a few popular caves. But if one wants to, and perhaps on the podcast even, we could literally have 1 or 2 episodes dedicated to the Ajanta and Ellora caves. That's how vast they are. That's how detail oriented they are, and a lot of these caves. If you go down the rabbit hole, you could literally explore them for days together. So even though we're talking about it from a 2-day itinerary perspective, if one wants to spend time, you could literally spend a lot more time exploring these caves. So I'm assuming you spent till the end of day over here around 4 p.m., 5 p.m. or so, and then headed back to Aurangabad.
Yeah, so we spent there around 3:30, and we started around 3:30, and we reached Aurangabad by evening 6.
Okay. So for this day, was it all in terms of points of interest that you covered, or did you have anything else planned?
So actually the first day was totally dedicated to Ajanta caves.
Okay.
So the main part of Ajanta cave is the transportation, because
Right.
the roads are not pretty much good as we think. So that's why it took around 3 to 4 hours to come from Aurangabad to Ajanta and backport.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So the one first day is done. So what did you do on the next day, Sagar?
Yeah, so the next day is a very long day for me and also for Aurangabad, I think. So for next day, I thought of taking a same Volvo bus, so which covered a couple of points in Aurangabad and Ellora caves.
Okay.
So, but the major drawback was that the bus don't take you to the Devgiri Fort, which is also a major attraction. For that reason, I didn't took the Volvo bus. Instead, I took a auto rickshaw
Okay.
for hire for the entire day. So the auto rickshaw costed me around $800. So I started around 7:30 or 8 in the morning, and the first point which I went for the second day is the Krishneshwar temple.
Okay.
So Krishneshwar temple is also near Ellora caves, which is around 30 kilometers from Aurangabad.
Okay.
And the significance of this temple is that it's one of the 12 Jyotirlings of Hinduism. Yeah, and coming to bit history about this temple, the original temple which was there was destroyed by Delhi Sultanate during 13th and 14th century. And after that, the temple went through several rounds of rebuilding, followed by re-destruction during Mughal and Marathas conflict. The latest temple, which you can see now, is of 18th century and which was built by Queen Ahilyabai Holkar of Indore after the fall of Mughal Empire. So she was the one who contributed to a major part of this temple.
Yeah, very, very significant temple, like you said. One, because it's obviously a part of the 12 Jyotirlingas. The others important ones being the great temples at Somnath, to even some of them in Omkareshwar and Kedarnath and things like that. But basically, these are spread out across India. And the Krishneshwar temple is one of them in Maharashtra. And to Sagar's point as well, that it's been going through a lot of cycles of destruction and reconstruction, and again being defaced during these conflicts. But Ahilyabai Holkar, right, she was actually very instrumental, even though she was in Indore, she was very instrumental in building a lot of these temples, including the one, I forget the name, very popular one in Varanasi. Was it the Vishwanath temple?
Yeah, it's the Kashi Vishwanath temple.
Kashi Vishwanath temple, right? Yeah, even that was constructed by Ahilyabai Holkar. So she had been a patron of a lot of these great temples, including the Krishneshwar temple here in Aurangabad. How much time did you spend here?
Yeah, so as it's one of the Jyotirlings, so obviously it will be crowded by most of the local people and around the place. So it's better and it's advisable that you cover the Krishneshwar temple before visiting the Ellora caves. Because once you go in the morning itself, the crowd would be less as compared to the crowd which comes after 8 or 9 o'clock. So I spent pretty much good around an hour or something. And frankly speaking, the temple was almost empty.
Good.
Good for you. Awesome. So from here, you're back, I guess, you had the auto for the day. So what is your next stop?
So from Krishneshwar temple, I went to the Ellora caves, the famous Ellora caves, which is also UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Right.
So I think the Ellora caves is famous only for one temple, or you can say the one rock cut architecture, that is the Kailashnath temple.
Okay.
So let me tell you something about the Ellora caves.
Okay.
So Ellora caves have roots on Buddhism, Jainism and Hinduism. So there are, frankly speaking, there are around 100 caves, but we have access only to 30 to 40 odd caves.
Okay.
If you go chronologically, no, not chronologically, if you go sequentially, the numbers which caves have been given. So the first 12 caves are the Buddhist caves.
Okay.
Then we have around Hinduism caves from cave 16, and then at the end we have Jain caves.
Okay.
So you start from the Buddhist caves. So the Buddhist caves are more or less same as kind of the caves in Ajanta which we have seen earlier.
Right.
And if you have seen Ajanta caves and you come here and see the Buddhism caves of Ellora caves, I think you would not be that much pleased, because you have seen far much great architecture and miniature in Ajanta caves.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so the main attraction is the Kailashnath temple, so which is the cave number 16. So and this is the major attraction of Ellora caves. So it is said that the cave is built from an entire stone in upside down manner. So that's a breathtaking view which I have noticed there, and frankly speaking, I spent around 10 to 15 minutes just to see the architecture from up till down.
Wow,
so
okay.
That was the moment I can't forget.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in terms of the way it's built also, right, there's also it's also believed that it's built to replicate the Mount Kailash, right? That's also one of the beliefs. And yeah, it's an architecture marvel, that's all I could say, especially given the size of it. And also you have some beautiful carvings of elephants and things like that around the area also that's been done, and a number of smaller shrines also around this cave 16 that you're mentioning, which is the Kailashnath temple, or Kailash temple as it's popularly known.
Yes, yes. And also we have like the entire panel of Ramayana and also an entire panel of Mahabharata.
Okay.
We have the 10 avatars of Vishnu, then the as shrine dedicated to Ganga, Saraswati, everyone. So in fact we have all the god and goddess here,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, very interesting.
all carved in stone.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I found this facet of it very fascinating as well, that it's not just the Buddhist caves, right, that are found here. It's actually Hindu, Buddhist and Jain caves that are spread across, and there are subtle differences between these caves as well, like you called out. Some of the Hindu caves obviously focused on the Hindu gods and goddesses, and they were actually believed to be one of the first to be constructed around the 500 to 600 CE period, followed by
Yes,
the
yes.
Buddhist caves, and then later on the Jain temples Jain caves and the Jain temples that were built here later, much later during the 700s to 900s CE. So yeah, it's wonderful. It's just that, like we called out at the beginning, Ajanta and Ellora caves probably can make a trip of itself, right? By its own, you could make a trip out of these two caves if you want to really get into the details. And it is advisable to get a guide, right? I guess a certified guide, so you can know about the intricacies of the architecture as well as the differences, subtle differences, and sometimes also stark differences between these different caves, like the Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain caves. So, how much time did you spend here?
Yeah, so I spent a pretty well around 4 to 5 hours in Ellora caves, because the Kailashnath temple alone took around 45 minutes of my time.
Right.
Yeah,
One more point I want to mention, that this after Buddhism then came the Hinduism temples, and then we have Jain temples. So
Right.
these Jain temples are bit far from the Ellora caves. Like you have to take a bus to go till there. Like they have an internal bus system of government.
Okay.
So which will take around 5 to 10 minutes to reach the Jain caves, and then you can explore the Jain caves and come back again near the Kailashnath temple, which is the exit side.
Okay. And what do you find in the Jain caves? Can you describe it to us?
Yeah, so in the Jain caves, they have the structure of Tirthankars. Yeah, so but the Jain caves are not in as good condition as the Hinduism and Buddhism caves. So people mostly avoid to go to the Jain caves, because it takes almost an hour or something to go and come from Jain caves.
Okay.
right. Yeah, and it has a lot of these depictions of the 24 Tirthankaras, like you're
Yeah,
mentioning,
yeah,
right? I think
yes.
that's the standout feature, and what is a little different from the Hindu or the Buddhist set of caves. But I was also fascinated by the fact that a lot of these caves, right, they have not just the monasteries and the prayer halls and things like that, but also these were serving as the quarters for all these monks who were staying, right? So sleeping quarters, kitchens, and living quarters and things like that, those were also present. So that kind of adds to the mix as well, that it's not completely just say focused on monasteries or prayer halls or temples predominantly, but it also had these living quarters, etc. So that is also quite fascinating to watch and explore. So wonderful. Now,
One more thing.
yeah,
One more thing I want to mention, that in Ajanta caves, all the caves were of only single. Like you don't have a 2-floor or 3-floor story. But once you come to Ellora caves, there are a couple of caves which have around 2 to 3 floors.
Oh, wow.
Like you have to go up and down. So that's a differentiating factor between Ajanta and Ellora caves.
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, absolutely. No wonder you spent 4 to 5 hours, which is
Yeah.
I think one of the longest stops during your journey here. But where from Ellora caves? Like, what is the plan after this?
So after Ellora caves, actually it was around 1 o'clock or something when I finished completing the Ellora caves. Then I went to see the Aurangzeb tomb.
Okay.
So
Okay.
as I told you earlier, that Aurangzeb was the emperor of Aurangabad, through which the name of Aurangabad came into place. So the tomb of Aurangzeb is located while going from Ellora towards Aurangabad.
Okay.
So it's a small place, and the tomb is bit off-road while going from Ellora caves. So if you are coming by a private vehicle or you have your own vehicle, then only you can go to this place. Otherwise, if you are coming by Volvo, then it's not possible.
Okay.
Okay, so that's advisable to plan ahead of time, right? If you're
Yeah,
planning to
go
visit
there.
here, better have your own transport or I guess a auto ride like you did.
Yeah.
That should be possible.
So actually, telling something about this Aurangzeb's tomb. So actually, this Aurangzeb tomb is not famous as the Humayun tomb or the Akbar tomb.
Sure.
The main reason for this is because Aurangzeb, before he was dying, he told that his burial place was to be made from the amount which he earned by stitching caps during the last years.
Oh.
So that's why the tomb is remarkably simple in keeping Aurangzeb's own wishes. And later on, one of the British viceroy make the tomb with full of marble, and then it was decorated with marble windows and all everything.
Oh. Okay. So the initial structure is a very simple one.
Yeah, very simple.
Okay.
So frankly speaking, if I tell you in the term of amount, so the amount was around 14 to 15 rupees at that time.
Oh.
Wow, yeah. And one could imagine, right, this is the same Mughal emperor who comes from the family of Shah Jahans and others who are actually known to splurge on buildings and tombs and mausoleums. So that's quite surprising. And yeah, it's even going by the structure itself. Like you said, it's not very flashy at all. It's very, very kind of going by his wishes, I guess. Like you said, very, very simple and elegant after a little bit of touch-ups that were done by the British governor whose name you mentioned. So how much time did you spend here?
I spent hardly around 10 to 15 minutes, that's all.
Okay, okay. And what's the next closest point of interest from after visiting Aurangzeb's tomb?
Yeah, so after Aurangzeb's tomb, I had my lunch and then I went straight to Devgiri Fort or the Daulatabad Fort. So all this comes when you come from Aurangabad to Ellora Cave. So this come on the way while going from to and fro Aurangabad to Ellora.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about your experience visiting the Daulatabad Fort or the Devgiri Fort.
Yeah, okay. So actually, initially the fort name was Devgiri Fort, as you already mentioned at the start of the conversation.
Yep.
So Devgiri Fort was Devgiri was the capital of the Yadva dynasty, as you mentioned, and it was taken by the Delhi Sultanate during the rule of Alauddin Khilji.
Okay.
So in 1327, it was the capital, as you have already told. It was shifted from Delhi to Devgiri and then again back to Delhi during the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He took a year of around 7 years to decide that Devgiri was not the perfect capital, which has to be shifted back earlier.
Okay.
So at that time, the fort was named Daulatabad Fort. Otherwise, it was earlier named as Devgiri Fort.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So they say that the Devgiri Fort was unconquerable. So because the fort has only one entry and one exit. Normally forts have some 2 to 3 hidden exit and also 2 to 3 entries.
Right.
But this fort has only one entry and one exit, which makes it very difficult to conquer. And also once you enter the fort, there is a dark passage, which they say. So I was also a bit conscious to go into the dark passage or not. So it's kind of passage which will lure the enemies. Like if you come to the passage, you don't know which path to take. It will have multiple paths, and you end up going to wrong path, and you will be defeated. That's how the passage was designed.
That's interesting.
And also, to your point, I also remember you calling this out in your blog. It's a good tip to carry a torch to a lot of these places, right? Especially the caves from Ajanta and Ellora. Some of them, a torch might be handy, as well as passages like these, the tunnels like these that you're mentioning. It might be handy to have a torch to explore those further. Awesome. What else did you explore within the Devgiri Fort or the Daulatabad Fort?
Yeah. So once you enter the Devgiri Fort, you have a structure called Chand Minar, which they call.
Yep.
So it's like a tower resembling exactly the Qutub Minar of Delhi. So the Chand Minar is in very much good condition when you go and see. So, and also there is a Hind Mata temple near the Minar, which is almost destroyed because the temple is in ruins as of now. And these two structures are there while entering the fort. And after entering, you also have a cannon gallery where the different kinds of cannons are displayed like the short cannon, broad cannon, the firing range of cannon in terms of firing to the enemy. So here you will know the weapon system of the entire Daulatabad fort. So here you get a brief idea how strong the fort was fortified.
Absolutely. And even externally, right, like you said, this fort was one of the most impregnable forts, and surrounded by moats and trenches, and that's how, especially that system you mentioned, that there was only one entry-exit point, right? No other ways to get in or out. So that way, it was really, really hard for any of the, say, attacking enemy armies to kind of breach these fort, and even if they did breach it, obviously given the way it was structured, they would be easily kind of overrun. Now, talk to us a little bit more about this Chand Minar also. A very, very beautiful structure. It is, like you said, very similar to Qutub Minar, but also very, I guess it's similar to some of the minars that you might see in mosques, right? It's just that it's huge. It's nothing over 200 feet tall. That's how it's different, but red in color and very stand out, given that how it projects out. There's no other like large buildings in the vicinity, so really stands out in the fort, yeah?
Yeah. So actually, earlier people used to go to the top of the minar and they used to say their prayers loudly.
Yeah.
So, but now I think it stopped to go to the top of the minar because of the construction is weakened from the base.
Right.
That's why.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely do make it a point. Very good opportunity for those of you who might be interested in taking pictures also, I'm sure. The Chand Minar is one such very Instagrammable point. So make sure to take your pictures out there. And any other structures or points within the fort you'd like to call out before we move to the next point of interest?
Yeah. So after you cover the Chand Minar and the Cannon Gallery, so as you already mentioned, we have a trench which you cover and then go to the main fort. So after the trench comes the dark passage, and through the dark passage you will enter to the main fort, that is the top of the fort.
Okay.
So once you reach from the top of the fort, you will get the aerial view of the entire fort or the entire perimeter or vicinity. So, and as of now, most of the fort is in ruined state, but still you will get a flavor like how the era would look when the fort was in full of its glory.
Yeah, absolutely. And very significant fort also, right? Like we touched upon the history a little while earlier, and it's exchanged hands obviously between different rulers too. So all of that will be kind of visible, even though the fort seems to be in a state of ruins in some parts. So wonderful. Now, thank you for taking us through the fort. How much time did you end up spending at the fort?
Yeah, so if you're planning to go till the top of the fort, as I told, so it will definitely take around around 3 hours of your time.
Okay.
But if you plan to just touch the base like till Chand Minar and then come back again, then it's 1 hour is more than enough.
Okay, wonderful. And just also to call out, right, Sagar, you've visited a lot of these places. In terms of prices or tickets, basically, right, the entry fee, is that all affordable, or how are those priced?
Yeah, it's very much affordable. So the Daulatabad fort entry fee was around 25 or 30 bucks, as I remember. And similarly goes for Ajanta caves also. It was around 40 rupees around. And similarly go for Ellora caves. Because it will maximum cost around 50 rupees, that's all.
Okay.
Nice.
Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you for pointing that out too. Now, what point next after you've finished spending time at the Daulatabad fort? How much time did you have left, or did you have any time left at all? Because it's been quite a long day.
Yeah, it was a long day. So it was around 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the evening. So, and I definitely kept the most precious piece of heritage at the late evening, which is the Bibi Ka Maqbara.
Okay.
So as we all have seen the Taj Mahal in Agra, so on the similar line goes the Bibi Ka Maqbara, which is a kind of replica of Taj Mahal.
Okay.
And it is built by Aurangzeb for his first wife, that is Dilras Banu Begum.
Okay.
So Aurangzeb used to have a lot of wives, but Dilras Banu Begum was very much close to Aurangzeb.
Okay.
So this monument resembles Taj Mahal, but it's very small in size as compared to Taj Mahal. And one interesting fact about this Bibi Ka Maqbara is that the Bibi Ka Maqbara is made by the architect who is the son of the main architect of Taj Mahal.
Oh wow.
Okay.
So you know that it's in the gene of the architect who made Taj Mahal and Bibi Ka Maqbara.
Right. Interesting to know that.
Not just so, because basically Taj Mahal was also made by Aurangzeb's father, right, Shah Jahan, So there's that
Right,
connection,
right.
not just at that level, but even the architects were connected. So that's keen. That's a good thing to know. And yeah, like you pointed out, almost looks like a miniature version of Taj Mahal, right? With the four spires in the four corners and the central structure, the mausoleum, I assume, with the dome and everything, which is very similar to how Taj Mahal is structured, also. Yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely right. And also one more point I want to mention that Aurangzeb earlier plan was to make like Bibi Ka Maqbara as grand as Taj Mahal. That his plan was to make it as big as Taj Mahal, but due to monetary conditions, because Aurangzeb was a person who used to spend a big chunk of money in military.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the amount which he used to have for other activities, for building other monuments or something, was limited. So that's why he was not able to build a monument as big as Taj Mahal.
Okay.
Yeah. Very, very a lot of similarities between the two structures, not just in terms of how they look, but also the reason I guess they were built for, right? Even in case of Taj Mahal, it was built for Shah Jahan's wife, in memories of his wife Mumtaz Mahal or Mumtaz Begum, and here in case of Aurangzeb, in the memory of his wife Dilraz Banu Begum, like you said, and I believe she did pass away after delivering their fifth child. So very, very interesting points here, right, to kind of take note of. And one of the iconic points in Aurangabad also, right, the structure, the Bibi Ka Maqbara, as it's called, one of the iconic points, and again, Instagrammable points, I would say, given the sheer beauty of the place. I know it's smaller in size compared to Taj Mahal, so not as grandiose, I would say, but definitely as elegant. Definitely matches it in terms of elegance. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would definitely recommend to witness a sunset near Bibi Ka Maqbara. It's like beautiful, very, very beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Absolutely, very similar in terms of the color also of the structure, right? It's built from Jaipur marble, I believe, and
Right.
maybe not. I don't know. It's, I guess it depends, but maybe not as white and pristine as the Taj Mahal, but still, I would definitely say it's comparable in terms of beauty. So wonderful, and you spent your time and kind of signed off on the trip also at this note, I'm assuming, given that it's almost sunset at this point.
Yeah. So this was my last point, and I spent pretty much enough time around till 7 o'clock or something, because there was nothing to do for me after this Bibi Ka Maqbara. So I spent time here till around 7 or 7:30, and then I came back at my night bus, which was around 10 o'clock from Aurangabad.
Okay, wonderful. Any other points of interest that you couldn't touch upon that you'd like to call out, Sagar?
Yeah, sure. So like I was having a 2 days time, so I covered as much as possible. So if you have a day or more in your hand, then there are a couple of places around Aurangabad. That is the Aurangabad caves, which is one place. Then Panchakki, which is also a small place around the lake, and then Chhatrapati Shivaji Museum, where you will get to know more about the history of the entire place. And yeah, I think that's all. I think.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Like you called out, it could easily be beyond the 2-day itinerary or a weekend itinerary, right? If somebody has a week, definitely do spend more time exploring the Ajanta and Ellora caves. And I found this also very interesting. The Aurangabad caves, like you said, right? Much smaller in size, obviously, but very similar to these other sets of caves you saw and built between the 6th and 8th century AD. So quite old in terms of the caves, and it's a bit different, not obviously exact replicas of the ones built in Ajanta and Ellora. They're a bit different, but definitely do check them out if you have extra time. And a couple of interesting points I saw, even in terms of just visiting within the city, right? I heard or read about this Tara Pan Center, a place that serves pan. That seems to be very popular among YouTubers and other celebrities visiting there as well. And you have pans priced as high as 5,000 rupees for a set.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So maybe visit the Tara Pan Center. Very secretive, I don't know if I should call it the recipe or the nuskha of the pan, apparently, and it's been passed down from generation to generation. So definitely check that out. And Paithani saris also, I hear are kind of the peculiar and famous. Yeah, go on.
So actually, Paithani is a Maharashtrian tradition sari, so which is worn by a married woman especially.
Right.
So the Paithani saris are made here also and near Ellora also. It's a small village near the Aurangabad.
Right.
So these are very famous, and it's as famous as different state sarees or different culture sarees. So yeah, it's one of the shopping center for ladies actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe you can even shop saris that can go up to 1 lakh. So if you want to splurge on shopping and on saris, you could do that too. And a couple other things of note. Barkatti stall apparently is also a popular joint if you want to go like late in the night and get some chai. And there's also this popular Salim Ali lake, right? Named after the Birdman, Salim Ali, I guess. So that's another point that you could spend time depending upon your interest. And there's also the Shivaji Vastu Sangralaya, right? The museum, like you said, that's an important point. Right. So a lot of points can easily turn into a week-long itinerary, right? I know you suggested a weekend itinerary, which is ideal and optimal. But if you want to spend more time, Aurangabad does have these points of interest, both from historical and cultural and even from a religious perspective. There's so many important points, but yeah, very, very underrated is all I would say, because before I started digging deeper into it, the only things I knew about was the Ajanta and Ellora caves, but there seems to be so much more to this place than just those, yeah?
I just want to add one more point, that during the start of conversation, I told that there were 52 gates in Aurangabad earlier.
Yeah.
So if you get time, start you would love to explore Aurangabad by foot, because there are a couple of gates which still exist in Aurangabad. So I can't pinpoint which location has these gates, but yeah, you would witness some of the gates ruins as of now.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Absolutely.
Thanks for calling that out, Sagar. Yeah.
It's called as the City of Gates, like you said, right? For a good reason, 52 of them. Awesome. So thank you so much for kind of walking us through this wonderful place, and yet very underrated place also, I would say. The city of Aurangabad and the district of Aurangabad, but in all its glory, back from the day, and some of which kind of remains even today. And it was great actually exploring that with you and finding out more about these interesting places from you.
And giving us tips also about how one can like get around the place and all the travel hacks. So thank you so much, Sagar.
Yeah, thank you guys for helping me to share you my experience of Aurangabad and to help you go through places in and around Aurangabad.
Yeah, it was a pleasure listening. Yeah.
And Sagar, if listeners or readers want to follow up and follow on your travels through your blog, how can they keep in touch with you?
Yeah, so my travel website is travelsufferorhum.com, and you guys can check out a couple of my articles in that website. And also, if you want to have a conversation with me, I have my email ID on the website.
Okay, perfect. So we'll add the links to all that in our show notes section so that it's easy for anybody to head out and check out your blog. So thank you so much, Sagar, and we had a wonderful trip around Aurangabad with you. Thanks.
Thank you so much for taking us around, Sagar.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
That was yet another great episode on the Musafir Stories. Make sure to show us some love by sharing the podcast with your friends and family. We are on Instagram and Twitter at Musafir Stories. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM podcast app or the website. Follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram.